want a second look.
Yeah, there's something about this one, isn't there? Familiar somehow.
We think we're stuck in a specific fragment in time, and we've been repeating that same fragment over and over again.
But the flirting's over, Sherlock. Daddy's had enough now.
Hello and welcome to You've Seen It Before, TV Reviews Connection to Mind. Halo, the long-gestating, long-awaited live-action adaptation of the video game franchise, has dropped its full first season on Paramount+. And this series was developed by Kyle Killen and Stephen Kane and stars Pablo Schreiber as Master Chief John 117 and Jen Taylor as Cortana. And this series focuses on Master Chief as well as the other Spartans of the UNSC as the people of UNSC are at war with an alien species known as the Covenant when a mysterious artifact is discovered on a remote planet that will lead both the UNSC and the Covenant to a mysterious ring known only as the Halo. Now, this video review will contain spoilers of Halo Season 1, but I'll be doing my spoiler-free thoughts first and foremost, but just so you know, there will be spoiler content later on in this review. But first and foremost, let's get into the spoiler-free thoughts on Halo Season 1. Is it a good series? Is it worth binging or watching at all? Is it worth that Paramount Plus subscription? I would say there's definitely things to enjoy about in this series if you were a fan of the Halo franchise. Me, growing up, I was, the only real exposure that I had with Halo was in the library. The section of the library that was the teen section. They had a row of computers, and they would often load the demo of the original Halo Combat Evolved, on the computers and do multiplayer battles, so I would play with that a little bit. And then years later, I finally got around to playing the full game of the original Halo, and I only recently got to Halo 2, even more recently. I still haven't finished Halo 3 yet, but yeah, so my Halo knowledge is really only about that first game. I haven't read any of the books, or any of the associated comics or anything like that, or any of the later games, so I was going into this with that very limited knowledge of Halo, and props to this series. They get the look of the universe down. I mean, the Covenant aliens look great. Spartan stuff look great. They have researched this. They apparently had a sound library that they accumulated specifically for this thing, so they wanted to get it right. And all the sounds from the game are in here too. You know, the low shield warning, the sound of the guns, the sound of the grenades. You know, the sound of the needlers, all that stuff, it looks great. And you feel this world, it feels like you've dropped into this world of Halo. And that worked great. You know, Pablo Schreiber as Master Chief, great, fantastic. I think he did a pretty okay job with this. And Jen Taylor, I'm glad they brought her back as Cortana, because otherwise it would be really weird. She does great. I mean, and she sells Cortana as she has done throughout all the games. So that works out great. What I think this series lacks is it seems confused, and I'll see how that. I'll go into detail about that in a second. But it feels like it's a lot of build up to a whole lot of not much. Like, it feels like this whole first season is, they're trying to establish a lot, and the story that they really want to tell is in Season 2, but they haven't gotten there yet. I believe they've already renewed it, so they're working on Season 2 right now. But for right now, this feels like one big setup. And as setup goes, yes, it establishes where we're going, but taken just as this first season is, it is very confused because it's trying to tell a lot and it's not telling things well. For instance, the very first episode, we focus on this, this planet with a mysterious artifact, and we're introduced to this character, Quan Ha, who is, I guess this town is there's a resistance against the UNSC because these people are, I guess they're kind of like the frontier types, so they want to be left alone or something, and then they see the UNSC as like the enemy. But yeah, you think this character is going to be like a huge, important role, and then, but she gets separated from Master Chief around, I think this is season 9 episodes, so I think around episode 3, they kind of go their separate ways, and they try to play their stories as two like parallel arcs, but really all the stuff with Kwan Ha at the end, I mean, she is okay as a, Yaren Ha is the actress, I mean, she does okay, but the storyline, every time I cut to it, I'm like, who cares at this point? Just get back to Master Chief already, where all the cool stuff's going down. And by the time we get to the end, there was one thing at the end of Kwan Ha's storyline in this first season that I'm like, so there's one reveal at the end of her storyline of this season, and I'm like, is that the only reason this character was in here? Because everything else, it feels like a completely different series that just kind of tacked on to a Halo series. Maybe it'll get sorted out later in season 2, but I don't know. I was not a huge fan of that storyline, and it felt like a completely different series. And it was like, all right, that's like, all right, stuff's happening. Come back to Master Chief already. Come back to Master Chief already. And then on top of Master Chief's side of the storyline, there is a lot of reveals and stuff and backstory going on. And in a movie situation where you have like, all right, you see the twist coming, and it's like, all right, waiting for the character to catch up, waiting for the character to catch up. In like an hour and a half, 2-hour movie, that's bad, but at least tolerable in that situation where you figure out the twist first, and like everyone else knows, but the character where the twist gets revealed. Here, there are twists that they get revealed relatively early on in the story. Other characters know these things, and then the audience is therefore informed. However, it takes like 3 or 4 episodes before everything comes to a head, and I'm like, yeah, okay, this was timed badly. It's like, it makes Master Chief look like an idiot sometimes. It's like, how have you not figured this out already? It's like, yeah, there's a lot of that going on in here. And also, like I said, there's a lot of build-up in this series. Like I said, it feels like the story that they want to tell is going to be in season 2, because season 1, it's a lot of build-up. And there's one thing missing in particular, and it will be a little bit of a spoiler, but I'll get into the spoiler sections, but that for me dragged it down significantly. So, like I said, there's a lot to like and dislike about this series. The look of this series is gorgeous, and it looks very much like, it pretty much looks exactly like the games. The storylines, right now, not so great. And, like I said, a lot of build up to not much. So, if I was going to give Halo Season 1 a letter grade, I would say this is a C-, because, like I said, the visuals and look of the world can only take you so far. Everything else about this series really drags it down. So hopefully things will improve in season 2, but for season 1, that's where I'm giving it C-. So those are my main thoughts on Halo Season 1 spoiler-free. Now let's get into some spoiler talk as to certain plot developments and character arcs that may seem familiar to you and where you may have seen them before. Now, going into the series, there was a lot of talk about like, oh man, another series focusing on a character where we very famously, for several games, we never saw this person's face. It's like, this is going to be they're going to copy the Mandalorian, aren't they? It's like, you'd be shocked at, I was shocked at how often Master Chief was unhelmeted. It was almost the occasion when he would put his helmet back on. And, for me, being a purist, pure being the original to the Halo Combat Evolved, where he never takes off his helmet, it felt weird to me, but I feel like the Mandalorian comparison was unfair, especially for people who hadn't seen it yet, just because they go out of the way to not do that, and there's that to be held. But one thing about Kwan Ha's storyline with the resistance on this planet Madrigal, which, by the way, Madrigal, I can't help but thinking about Encanto whenever I hear the name of that planet. I don't think, maybe that was just a coincidence, but sorry, that's just where my brain goes at that point. It made me think of like the latter half of Star Trek Deep Space Nine Season 7 with the Cardassian Resistance, where there's a certain point near the end of that season where, you know, the Cardassian Resistance is betrayed by one of their higher-ups, and basically the entire network is killed off, and everyone and people who have survived go into hiding, and very similar to what happens here with, you know, the generals in Magical have all most have been killed. The ones that are left have kind of gone hiding because they were pretty much sold out by this one general, and then now it's up to Quanah to rebuild the Resistance at this point. So there's that. And finally, like I said, there's a lot of build-up in the series because there's no freaking Halo. Yes, you see the Halo in visions or whatever, but there's no combat on the Halo, and it's really annoying. It made me think of Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom in that regard, where, you know, the marketer's like, oh man, we're finally going to see dinosaurs in the real world and doing massive damage, and that whole movie was all built up to, yeah, there was a little bit of peak at the very, very end of these dinosaurs in the real world, and then nothing. It's like all this whole movie was build up essentially. We were kind of lied to by the marketing at this point. Now we're finally going to get, you know, Jurassic World Dominion in a couple weeks here, and that's the story that seems like they wanted to tell, but they had to get this build-up out of the way first. That's kind of why I feel like there's that comparison with this season of Halo. So, but overall, yeah, those are my main thoughts on. Also, one last thing. I find it kind of hilarious that they're so loyal to the look of the game, even down to the fact that the Spartan grenades are like almost the size of their heads. Which, I mean, playing the original games, it's like, yeah, these grenades are gigantic. That's just because that was the limitations of the graphics at the time. But they kind of ported that over to this. It's like, all right, that's kind of awesome. I love that. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Halo Season 1. What did you think of this season or this series? Are you excited for more? Are you kind of done at this point? What about my analysis? Do you agree, disagree? Did I miss anything? I may have missed something. Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate whatever audience I can get. Be sure to look for my next movie review, which would be for Jurassic World Dominion, coming out on June 10th, I believe. As well as I'll be doing my next TV review. I'm planning on doing a season overview of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. We're about 4 episodes in right now, so be sure to look for that. And if you liked this video or any other video on my channel, please give me a like, share, and especially subscribe. I very much appreciate it. Again, thank you so much for watching, but just remember, there is nothing new under the sun, and yes, you have seen it before.